What's up, guys? This is Alex Van Houten with Defining Dad Bod. I hope you're doing well. I'm here with a very, very special guy, Mr. Jon M. Jon, how are you doing, man?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. Hailing from Canada. I imagine you guys are much colder than we are right now. Is that for sure?
Well, I doubt it, honestly. I live West Coast Canada, and we're actually below the 49th parallel where I live. So.
Oh, okay. So you don't get quite all the Arctic winds and all that yet?
No, it's pretty rare for us. Like, if our winter happens, it might happen in February. Sometimes we get a little bit of snow in March, but it doesn't snow a lot. Temperatures can get down, but it's been pretty mild temperature last week or so. We suffer a lot of rain, that's about it.
I appreciate you schooling the Americans on the call, because I tend to think the further north you go, the worse it gets. I'm sure that's true in winter, but we're here to talk about your personal transformation and your life-changing journey. And I'm extremely excited about you in particular, not because we've had some amazing guys come on and talk about their stories and whatnot, and you're no less amazing, but something that's near and dear to my heart is the Defining Dad Bod movement rebranded in the spring to encompass a very particular style of program. And you, my friend, are the first to see that from end to end. And that's amazing to me, and I can't wait to talk to you about the story. So let me not tell your story for you. I don't want to dive into the nuts and bolts of training, because you've had several conversations with me and know that I love to talk like that. But let's talk about you, man. So we started working together toward the end of the spring of this year, but there's a lot of backstory that brought you to the point that you said, hey, I want to do something about myself. I want to do something about my life right now. It's not where I want it to be, and I'm going to connect with Alex to change that. So tell us the backstory. What brought you to the point that you decided something had to change?
Sure. The biggest point that I realized in life in early May of this year was I was struggling in a major way, psychologically, physically, mentally, everything, to sort of feel like I fit in sort of my body shape, my body type. In my line of work as a police officer, we have to be fit, and it helps us in a number of different ways, not just self-confidence, but managing stress. I wasn't managing stress very well, and I know I needed to make a change. The biggest point for me was I had been running every 2 or 3 days, and I was getting up to about 5K. But nothing about me was changing, other than maybe I could run a little bit longer. I wasn't losing weight. My clothes weren't fitting differently. That probably related hugely to diet. But there was just something missing about that fitness component. And then my son was struggling as well. He'd been a bit latent over the winter and, being a little bit lazy, and got connected to a video game. But he's a sports guy like I am, and he joined his box lacrosse team and was struggling to keep up. And he'd always been one of the faster kids, being a little bit smaller. He could run pretty quick. But this year, when he joined, he said, my legs feel heavy. And I said, well, we need to do some extra training, and I'll go running with you. He's 11. I'm 41. So, we're not even, shouldn't be close physically. He should be able to run faster than me, I would hope. But so I said, we're going to jog to the 4th telephone pole, and then we're going to jog back. Well, we go to the 4th telephone pole, and I could barely breathe. And it was, yes, the running between treadmill and outside is different, but I didn't think it was that different. I should have been able to do a better job. So for me to feel that such a struggle after running every 2 to 3 days for the last 4 months, I knew that something else needed to change. And that's when I started reaching out for help.
Wow, man. So it sounds like a few things came together. There was stuff in your life that had brought you to a point where you didn't feel that you could perform your job as well as you'd like to. But when the light bulb really came on was when, in working to help your 11-year-old and his confidence in sports and stuff, you realized something has to change. I can't keep up with this kid. I can't even help him do what I want to help him to do. Is that right?
Exactly. Yeah, that was the biggest realization for me. outside of that, there was a few things at work. I would go in the office and I would walk by our cardio room, and it has a bit of a film on the window. And if it's dark in there, it's almost like a mirror. And I would walk by this mirror and just sort of look at myself and say, I don't enjoy how I look in this uniform. It just doesn't really fit what I want to look. And I would look around and I would feel like I was the biggest guy in the office, or the heaviest or most out of shape. And I would go to courses in Vancouver and feel the same way. So I would look around the room and say, I'm not the fittest person here. And that's not necessarily my goal, but I'm just outside the curve of average. And that started to feel wrong for me.
Sure. I got you. And it's hard when you get those reminders several times a day through a mirror or a reflected like car window or something. And it's like a constant tick in your mind. Like, you're not who you should be. You're not who you should be. Like, you're not who you are inside, at least not on the outside, which is, we'll talk more about that in a second, but let's go back, because there's always a back history that gets somebody to the 41-year-old who's having a really hard time keeping up with his son to the fourth telephone pole. You know, like, there's eating habits that were formed. There's exercise habits that were formed. There's, work schedules and stuff that are obstacles. Can you tell me a little bit about what brought you to that version of you at the end of spring? Tell me a little bit about your nutrition and a little bit about work and exercise that you think played into bringing you to that point that you had to change something.
Sure. Growing up, I played a lot of sports. And the biggest thing for me was a high school football team that I joined. I wasn't a fast runner. I wasn't the biggest, strongest kid growing up. And it was difficult for me to fit into a position in football, being a bit slower and a little bit heavier. I was on the offensive defensive line, but my coach wanted me to play linebacker. So he threw me into the gym and said, you need to work out more.
Go work out.
Yeah, lift some heavy stuff, pick some stuff up, put it down, come back in an hour, we'll see where you get. So I was committed to that and did a lot of weightlifting. But again, it just seemed like a chore. It wasn't something that I wanted to do, and it wasn't part of who I was. I never saw my dad work out. He once in a while went to the gym, where I was really proud of him, but it wasn't really a commitment level thing where it was a life change. Forever. It was, I need to do something, and then it changed. 3 weeks later, something came up. And so that's what I've seen is, you go for 3 weeks, you go hard. Oh, I'm feeling exhausted after these 3 weeks. I don't see enough results. What's the point in feeling tired and getting sweaty and showering all the time? So it was just easier to say, I'm not going to do this anymore. So I saw that. And then graduating high school, the high school sports ended. I joined a community-based sports team and played that for almost 10 years, but it was on Sundays for an hour and a half. And the best part about the game was the beers afterwards. And,
heck yeah, man.
So you go out and you run around for, 45 minutes, and then you just load those empty calories with crappy beer. So that didn't really help in the fitness style. But it was something that I was committed to, and I continuously did it, hoping that maybe it'll make some sort of life change.
Gotcha.
So it was always, generally, weight was always a struggle. Being committed to just stay with something was the biggest thing, because I'd never really seen that self-motivation and the results of personal physical fitness and nutrition. My mom was the cook at home. There was always food. And we learned in a busy house, if there's food on your plate, you need to eat what's on your plate. You're probably not going to get up and go do anything else until you finish that last boiled broccoli or carrot stick or whatever. And I don't force that on my kids, but I remind them that I work hard for what I put on your plate, and I provide something that's nutritious for you. So let's get through it together. But I'm not as strict as my mom with that.
So my mom always took the tack, if you don't eat what's here, you'll get hungry eventually. So she just put saran wrap on it, stick it in the fridge, and when we came asking for a snack, she'd put it right back in our face.
I've done that. Yeah. And it works because, the kids are hungry at 8:30 and bedtime is 9 or 9:30. And I say, well, it's not a healthy time to eat. So you should have eaten more dinner. Let's remember that for tomorrow. You sound like a parent. You never wanted to, but you sound exactly like your own. So
right, you're like, I gotta take a little different approach here, but it's. Tell me about this theme of being consistent with a lifestyle change versus like a temporary exercise or nutrition fix or something. That's a recurrent theme for a lot of people with regard to health and fitness. What kind of stuff did you try in the past, especially with nutrition, that you stuck with for a bit, but it didn't really click for you?
Yeah, so I was introduced to, I guess the biggest thing was a 30-day cleansing program, which incorporated 2 protein shakes as meal replacement and 1 small meal, along with nutritional supplements throughout the day. It was a 30-day plan, and I did it. That was 7 years ago. I lost 35 pounds in a month.
Wow.
My clothes fit better, but it wasn't sustainable. You jump into it and you're gung-ho and you spent all this money on it, so you want to be committed to it. And then the month is up, you run out of protein shakes, you run out of supplements, and you're like, hey, I can manage this. Let's just eat a little bit less. And then it's, there's a party or the summer rolls around and, 3-4 months later, the weight was back on. And in fact, there was more weight than before. And I'm going to do this again. And you're just not as committed to it. And so that's one thing. I was also introduced to this 7-day, it's called the Sacred Heart Diet. And it worked. I lost 24 pounds in a week.
Wow.
But, yeah.
It's impressive.
And that was like the first sort of fad diet weight loss program that I tried. And it's a lot of soup. A lot of soup. It is. It's called the soup diet. Some people know it as a soup diet. Similar. It's not the cabbage soup diet. It's a little bit different. But I don't know if it was true or not. And the internet wasn't the same thing it was in 2008 when I did it. But, I read that it was used in hospitals to help cardiac patients shed some weight before they had major heart surgery.
I see.
So it just ridded the body of everything. And, you sort of build your stomach and digestive system back up by the end of it. So I did that a couple of times and I tried it years after that and it just didn't work. Like I'm not eating soup for 7 days and not getting the results like I did before. So I don't want to do that. So it was a lot of things. And I read some books and I gained some knowledge on simple versus complex carbohydrates and how sugar can be bad and maintaining a more level protein-based intake system versus carbohydrates and sugars and things like that. So the knowledge is in my brain, but I just don't want to do it because chips are better than
chips are so good.
Right?
Yeah. I have to hone in on one point that you made there and add just a little training language to it because this is just something that's so important to me and something that a lot of people just don't understand with regard to lifestyle change. And it's the idea that our body has a homeostasis point, which is really just a fancy way of saying, there's a point in our weight and our body composition and whatnot where we become what we consistently do. And let's say we do something for 30 days, like you were saying, okay, cool. We drop in weight, but you can do anything for 30 days. I mean, apparently Jesus went out into the wilderness and didn't eat anything for 40 days, like the Jesus diet, let's call it that. So man, but 30 days is not enough time to shift homeostasis. And so you get there and then, like you said, you try to maintain it and something comes up, but our homeostasis point hasn't shifted. And so neither has all of the habits in our life, neither has all of the social support in our life. All of those things have not come together to help us be something different because of what we consistently do. And so there's a huge drop and then usually an uptick. And then because we've lowered our resting metabolic rate, usually we don't come back to this resting point. That resting point comes up higher for people from a weight loss perspective. And your story just describes that so well. Sorry to get on my soapbox for a second, but that's such an important part of lifestyle change.
Yeah, and it definitely is. And I noticed that happening. And getting into the job that I'm in, I was quite committed to fitness. At the beginning, I wasn't. And I weighed 270 pounds. And I knew at that point again that I needed to make this giant lifestyle change just because. And I ended up moving forward to train to be a police officer and passing the physical fitness test, which was always my worst nightmare. I joined the policing world as a volunteer when I was 19 and I passed a physical fitness test. I don't remember how old I was, 20, 21. But the first time I ran it, I almost passed out. I was holding my breath, and I remember telling a guy who's a friend of mine, and we work in the same job. I don't see him very often, but I remember seeing him at the bottom of these stairs with this obstacle course saying, I'm not going to make it. He goes, keep going, keep going. And I remember just even now, my vision going dark and this giant tunnel vision, like I was starving for oxygen. And I got through it. I got a horrible time, and I was coached by a couple of guys and just go out and run. Like, you're a strong guy. You just need to work on cardio. And I came back 3 weeks later and I got a way better time just for that cardio level. But it was that fitness test that basically stalled my goal in life for a number of years. So I trained hard, and I ended up passing it, and a little bit different, and got a passing time. It wasn't a great time, but I did it. So I knew that there was time for improvement and that sort of stuff. And training for this job was 6 months away from family in a very cold city in Canada. But there they feed you, you're forced to train. You don't have a choice. You're doing this run. You're doing, this bench press. You're going to do this push-up test and do some pull-ups and that sort of stuff. So all you are 6 months is a heavily trained athlete. And, we were consuming 4,000, 4,500 calories in a day and burning it. And some people lost a lot of weight. I lost only 5 pounds, but changed body type. But when you get out and you go to the job, all you want to do is work, and you're back to that. I don't have to run today. I don't need to eat that much, but you kind of want to. So a lot of people leave that training facility and end up gaining weight. So that became a difficulty in itself. And I tried running and I tried getting back into it, but it was just really difficult being self-motivated to continue to do it.
Right. I call it the biggest loser effect. A lot of people don't know that every person who's ever gone through the biggest loser, except for one, gained all of their weight back. So they go to the camp and they have to eat this way, and they're exercising, which is basically like going to the police academy minus the celebrities probably. So then you get out and you go home, and all of those things were so easy to do because you were there and you were moving all the time. But I mean, I'm not a cop, but there's not nearly 4,000 calories a day worth of physical activity in your everyday work, right?
No, it's not even close.
Not even close. So.
You watch, these TV shows, and, you see the exciting stuff. But I think what a lot of people don't know is those TV crews follow that police officer around for a long time before they get to the high-speed pursuit and the foot chase. And in Canada, that doesn't happen, but
everybody's too nice here. No, you got some good stories on the job I want to talk about in a second. Sure. But let's talk about coming to work with me and Defining Dad Bod. I guess in my mind, a couple questions I'd like to hear, and this isn't a conversation that we've gotten to have yet, so I'd love to hear from you. First of all, what brought you to this particular program? And then second, what was different about what we started together and what we're continuing to do together right now that has stuck so well with you?
Yeah, so early May, I posted in a Facebook group that we're a part of. All I said was, hey, I need to make a lifestyle change. I need to do something permanent. Who can help me? And 2 options became available, and I read over the first one, and I found it to be an 8-week transformation system, and the results are amazing in that group. And, Dr. Adrian Chavez is an amazing guy, and he's so knowledgeable, and Chris Hughes is an amazing trainer, and I see his workouts daily now, and I strive to get to what he's doing.
Right.
But the difference, and then seeing yours, the difference between the two is one is an 8-week program, and sure, you can continue on and do another 8 weeks and keep going. And one was start at the beginning, wherever you're at. We're going to go for 16 weeks and see where we get. And it just seemed that difference between 8 and 16 weeks simply in the delivery method of my program was the difference that I was looking for, because I knew that I needed something long-term that was going to be permanent, reading that, you need 90 days in order to make a full effective change in your system, metabolically, physically, mentally, psychologically, for it to become a lifestyle commitment. So that's why I chose to go with you, Alex. And I honestly couldn't be happier. And seeing some of the guys go through the 8-week transformation are amazing. And they've made huge gains and changed what they look like. And I want to get there. I've tried the 7-day fat diet. I've tried the 30-day cleanse diet. I've tried the 6-month training system. I just need something that I can commit to 100% of the time.
I appreciate hearing that, because one of the things that, I'm very, I'm very real in a consultation with a client is, look, if you're looking for an 8-week fix, that's not what we're going to be doing. Like, that's just not what I'm about. And that there's a time and place for that can be really powerful. I call it the get ready for my wedding time. Like, that happens, and that's fine. Fantastic. But my specialty, or what I tend to work with people on, is, look, my goal is to help you grow a foundation that you can continue to grow from. And that takes a while. That takes time. And I love that, like, for many people, that's a deal breaker. I'm very real about, look, I won't even work with you if we can't commit to 16 weeks. And then maybe even beyond that, I can't even start, like, we won't even get started, because I've been in this industry for a while. I know what I'm really good at, and I know what kind of clients that are ready to make that long-term change that I'm ready to coach you to. And I love that was not a deal breaker for you, because that's a deal breaker for some people. Like, what? You're not going to get me amazing results in 4 weeks? Like, no, I'm not about that. My goal, and I think I said this to you, if I do my job right, the next year, next May, 2019, you're going to be a different person than you are right now. Because for me, that's what this whole thing's about. That's what health, fitness, exercise, nutrition, all this stuff, that's what it's about, is the self-betterment, to where you look in the mirror and you don't recognize yourself. You're like, who is that guy? Who's this guy eating such low sugar and, going through hypertrophy and power and stabilization? And who's that guy who made sure that he had 30 grams of fiber today? Like, what? Who's that guy? That's you now. So tell me about the 16-week process, man. From a training perspective, I throw a lot at you. I throw at you what you're able to deal with, because some people can deal with a lot. Some people can deal with a little. You are in my top 10 client hall of fame for how much you can handle in a short period of time, which is pretty impressive on your part, because I've trained a lot of really cool people. But you, brother, you have done just a fantastic job with this. Tell me about it from your perspective. We started with insulin, cortisol, testosterone, then moved on to thyroid. We started in the foundations phase and moved on. What has been the most eye-opening parts of this for you?
I don't want to struggle with this, but just the simple answer is it's a lot easier than I thought it would be. And it's hard. It's waking up and saying, oh my God, I got to do what today? You see this email come in and you want me to lift my legs to a bar, like watching a YouTube thing. I can't do that. Like, you're crazy. And I've commented that a few times, but
yeah.
So the short and quick answer to that question is it's easier than I made it out to be. And I wonder if you remember, before we started having a quick conversation in the morning about, I looked at the macros and started to study them and try to figure out what this meant and where I was going to get protein from, and what if I'm short on carbohydrates? Can I eat, crackers or whatever? But I was so stressed. I had no idea how I was going to get this food into my system. And we had to talk. And one of the biggest things I remember is, based on my schedule, was, how do I stuff this food into my system when I'm only awake for, some days I'm only awake for 6 hours during the daytime. And I said, I can wake up, no problem, and have a couple of eggs. And your statement was, we are going to kill some eggs. I've killed so many eggs over the last almost 5 months. It's insane, but it's just one of those healthy sources of protein. And now I've switched that up to more egg whites than eggs. But that was a daunting thing for me to understand, was this nutrition compared to where we were going. But now it's not a problem. I don't even have to think of what's going in, and I barely have to look at calculating macros because I know I'm just hitting them. So it was tough at the beginning, but I knew that I was committed to making a change and getting into some of the exercises and rewarding myself with a new pair of shoes or ordering new clothes from Under Armour and waiting for them to come in and that sort of stuff. And those are the things that I did to say, you are making this commitment, treat yourself in order to do it right and play the part. If you can look the part, you can play the part and you can do it. So the short answer is it's easier than you think. The long answer is it's stressful. I don't want to do chin-ups today. My abs hurt too much and I don't want to feel sore for 3 days. But now, I hate to say it, like I kind of miss that. I miss feeling sore. I miss our delayed onset of muscle soreness. I won't, but I know it's coming. It's going to come back and which is fine. I'm excited about that. It's that addiction of endorphins release when you feel like my legs hurt a lot. And I don't do stairs today, but this is the reason why. And it's a good feeling.
Man, and what you just said, that's part of the reason that it's a 16-week. Because if it was just 4 weeks, you would quit on me in 4 weeks. You'd be like, this sucks. This is terrible. When does it get better? And to those of you watching, yeah, it does. It does suck. The first 4 weeks of any powerful change in your life is hard. And it doesn't matter if it's health and fitness. It could be a marital change. It could be a financial change. The first 4 weeks is always the hardest part. In psychology, they call it general adaptation syndrome. And this is the alarm phase when your body's like, oh no, we're running from a cougar. And that sucks. That's hard and tough. One of my favorite memories from the very beginning of your program is you texted me one evening. It was shortly after you started tracking your macros. I think it was 4 or 5 days in. And I shot back, hey man, we need more fat in our life. You're like, well, where am I going to get fat? And you're like, we're like 20 grams away from like not getting the fat we need in a day. And I was like, do you like avocados? Like you can go salt an avocado and chop it down. He goes, I can eat a whole avocado. I'm like, yeah. He goes, heart you. Like, yeah. Literally like love my trainer. My trainer says, dude, you need some fat in your life. Go eat an avocado. And because from a restriction standpoint, that doesn't make sense. Like, what? You want me to go eat 300 calories worth of fat in the next like hour? Is that okay? Like,
yeah, I remember that fondly. I think I started with half, and you said eat the whole one. So you want me to eat a whole one?
You want to eat a whole avocado?
We're going to be best friends for life. And then I think you said something. Yeah, we'll give it a few weeks. You'll hate me a little bit, but
right. So one of my other memories, and I'm going to share this with you because you'll appreciate it. This endeared you to me as a client just heavily. It took, like, to your credit, it took you 3 months before you asked about a cheat meal at all. It was like 3 months. And I get a text. He's like, so what is this fabled thing people talk about called a cheat meal? And if I remember right, you were somewhere where you smelled Chinese food, and it was just like, man, I've been at this for 3 months. I would love some Chinese food. Was that right?
Yeah, I had to go to the grocery store, and the grocery store that we have here makes amazing Chinese food, and it's
nice,
quick, easy. It's packed in an aluminum foil container, and it's good. It's really good, and the kids get it as a treat once in a while. And there's a guy at work who I talked to about where he's done fitness competitions and whatnot. And he's a weightlifter and a trainer. And so I talked to him and he was, yeah, you can do cheat meals once in a while. And I didn't really investigate them much. I didn't really think that was going to be a part of the program. I hoped one day it might be, but I was just feeling like, it was after work on Saturday. I have to go to the grocery store. I don't have dinner plans. I've been eating a lot of chicken. I need to do something different. So yeah, it was a text message. So tell me about this mysterious. And your response was, I knew this day would come.
Eventually. But what's funny is, poor John, when you hang out with Alex and we talk about this kind of stuff, I always have to dive into some sort of philosophical treatise about what this really means, because it's not just a cheat meal. In fact, in my training career, I believe that how you do one thing is how you do everything. And I don't want you to think of, oh, we're on this very strict meal plan and stuff, but I can cheat every once in a while. And maybe that works for some people, but psychologically, it's important to me to say, hey, like in my house, we have a local Thai food place. Oh, best Thai food ever. Whole life. I love pad Thai, chicken pad Thai, 2 times spicy. That's what you tell the lady on the phone. Chicken pad Thai, 2 times spicy. Because 1 time spicy is not spicy enough, and 3 times spicy will nuke your tongue off. So 2 times spicy is the perfect in between. Anyway, that being said, my wife and I, I'm a master trainer. She's a dietitian. This is not a cheat meal in our world. This is like once a month. We love Thai food. Like that's, it's so good. And we plan it like Saturday's Thai food day. We're like writing our grocery list, and Saturday, Thai, big smiley face. Don't even have to like meal plan past that on Saturday, right? So in our world, when you are maintaining a healthy nutrition and exercise lifestyle change, it's not like I'm going to cheat every once in a while. It's I'm going to plan to do something I really enjoy. That's not exactly helpful for my whole weight loss goal thing. However, it's kind of important to just enjoy life. At least that's how I see it. Yeah. So poor John, he's like, hey, what about Chinese food? And I've got to be like, hey, we don't talk about cheat meals. And so you've done such a good job. Like, make this a planned, conscious thing. And I think your response back was something like, totally got it. It was awesome. Do I have to track this?
Yeah, that's right. Do I need to put this into my fitness pal? And your answer was, yeah, I want to see what you enjoy. And it destroyed what it looked like, but it was worth it and didn't feel great. But as I was eating it, I was reading an article at the same time about cheat meals that I had found on the internet. And one of the big things was, and I didn't tell you this, but I'll tell you anyways, that don't make it a cheat day, don't make it a cheat week or a cheat month, and don't feel guilty about what you're doing. So I consciously took half of what was in the container and put it on a plate so I wasn't sitting there eating this whole container. Mm-hmm. Just to be mindful about it. But I saw it sitting on the counter over there, and I thought, that Chinese food that's going in the fridge. And I can't have it in there because I'm going to eat it. So I just ate it all. Maybe I shouldn't have, but one of your comments was like, don't let it slow you down. And I knew that I had to work out the next day and knew what I was doing, that I knew that there was different exercises I could do, or run a little bit harder, or push a little more weight and that sort of stuff to make up with this extra cheat meal. But I just didn't want it sitting in the fridge, and I didn't want to like waste the money and whatnot. So yeah, I ate it all and didn't feel guilty about it. And it was awesome. And, once in a while now it's a planned social event where the cheat meal comes in.
Perfect.
And it's not a weekly event. It may be every, a couple of weeks I'll go without one. And just psychologically, when you say, I just want that, I just go get it and don't feel guilty about it, because I know that I haven't had one in a while, and treat myself to say it's kind of like getting a new shirt from Under Armour or a new workout shorts or whatever. It's like, hey, you've worked your tail off this week. Reward yourself, but don't make it a cheat day. Don't make it a cheat week. Just have it. And I started following The Rock on Instagram, and
there you go.
His meals are insane. He had cookies on Sunday, that chocolate chip cookies with peanut butter in the middle. And I was like, why didn't I think that?
Wow. That's game changing. Yeah. And that's huge, because especially if you're generally eating healthy and you're generally exercising well and you're sleeping well and that kind of stuff, when you do have Chinese food, since it hasn't been an every night kind of thing, it's just so much better. Like, it's like, wow, this is good. Yeah. Whereas, if that's something you're doing normally, it's not even like enjoyable. It's just, this is what I eat, and sure, it tastes good. And we've conditioned our brain to be like, well, this is just dinner, So, I love that. Now tell me about where we're going now, because I think, recently I had a message. It was, hey, life after 16 weeks. Like, if you're not done with me, I'm not done with you. Where are we going? What's the next step? What am I doing? What do I work toward? Because you've lost a solid 16 to 18 pounds and a significant amount of body fat. This guy, yeah, we'll post your before and afters, but this isn't the end of your journey. You're still moving down the road toward a better you. So what does that look like for you, man? What's next, and what are you excited about?
Yeah, when I committed to this, I committed at least to a year. So, only being a quarter, a third of the way through it, it's just continuing on. And, the goal was just to create a better me. The goal is to show my children that when you commit to something, you get rewards from it. And, behind me on the wall are letters and awards that I've won through work. And I put them up not to be boastful about them, to have friends over and whatnot and have them read this letter from our boss about the work that I've done in a small community. It's to show my children that if you put your mind and body into something, someone will say thank you. Someone will say, good job, well done. So right now, my reward for getting up at 4:10 some days in the morning is, this physical fitness transformation that I want. And it's silly to say, but I was really excited to be able to see a vein in my bicep when I'm just standing around, and it's there. I've never been that guy that wanted washboard abs and, defined pec muscles and, super defined quadriceps and calf muscles and, but now I see that's an attainable goal, and I'm not, working towards a fitness competition or, some type of modeling of whatever as a 42-year-old dad, or, police officers don't do calendars like firefighters do. But just working towards that physical fitness level that I'm happy with. And I think when I get there, I'll get there. But at that point I will have succeeded in making this lifestyle transformation something that I can carry forward for I would say forever, for as long as I possibly can, as long as I need to. And yeah, I'm excited about going to the gym tomorrow at 4:30 in the morning before I go to work. It sounds crazy. And I know I used to say, the email came out saying, okay, rise and shine. And I still have the email that says, you need to be up at 5:30 and in bed at 10:30 and get up and do your routine and get it in and get it done. And I used to cringe at setting my alarm, before 5:00 in the morning. And now I set it for 10 after 4 on the days that I have to go to work, so I can get that workout in, and get to work. And it's not a chore anymore. It's, you're going to do this and you need to do it, and you're going to feel better once it's complete. So, the excitement for me is seeing my children succeed and know that I've done something for myself, and them being happy for me and hopefully understanding that they can do whatever they want.
I love that. And I've enjoyed seeing your progression just from a physical fitness standpoint. I remember a message when your program included a toes to bar, which you alluded to a bit ago. And your text was like, you want me to what? And then you did it. And you're like, well, it wasn't pretty, but I did it. And then you're getting better. And, now I'm not saying a toes to bar is an easy exercise, but it's old hat for you. It's like, well, that's what I do. That's part of my ab routine, and things like deadlifts and 100-pound traveling lunges and, getting heavier on the bench press and things like that. You're in a constant state of progress that's healthy and catered to you, and you're just shining with it, man. You're doing such a good job with it. So kudos to you in not just saying, hey, 16 weeks is up. I'm good. It's been a great ride. I've made some progress and I'm happy with this. It's a state of constant progression. And that has been, for my part anyway, as a trainer, really cool to see. And then also, that's my hope for many people, is that they can dive into their health and fitness and see it as a positive journey. And then eventually you reach a point where it's a maintainable thing that you enjoy. Maybe you continue to progress. Maybe you're just happy not to get, older or fatter at the same time, which happens to a lot of us. and you're able to live life in that state where you have better energy and you feel better and you look better and you're able to do the things that you'd like to do and keep up with your kids and whatnot. So here's a virtual 5 to you, dude. Bam, right there. Yeah. So tell me, Jon, you've got 2 kiddos. Tell me about what the concept of defining dad bod has come to mean for you, because you have gone through several transformations in your own life, and this one feels like it's sticking. So I want to understand, your kid was a big eye-opening piece to you, running to the telephone pole and not being able to keep up. I know being able to show your kiddos how the community has responded to you, making positive and powerful changes. So I'd like to hear from you. What does that look like in your life? What does defining dad bod mean to you?
Yeah, it's all in the name, I think. And I had a dad bod, and, the stereotypical belly and the low shoulders and just rounded personality. And, I love coming onto these calls that we do, because I don't really have a double chin anymore. And I remember sitting in this video or, with other guys and having chats and stuff, and I would have to stick my neck out forward, or I would literally sit with a sweatshirt so it would be the top right below my chin so I wouldn't have to look at it. And so just in this transformation of what a dad needs to look like, I think defining a dad bod is what that dad wants that bod to look like. It doesn't need to be the lazy dad, the baseball or football Sunday dad with a, bag of chips and 6-pack or whatever it is that people do. I think everybody's idea of defining that dad bod can be different. But for me, it was time to redefine that dad bod and find a way to move forward and being happier and healthier and just feeling better overall. And I think that name sort of resonates with me a lot. And, I put pictures on Facebook and I tag it, and people ask me, say, hey, how's your dad bod coming? It's like, hey, my bench press is growing, and every time I do a deadlift, I'm at a personal record because I add weight every time I do it. So, yeah, it feels good when people ask, and I hope that my story inspires one person to say, hey, how do I do that? I want changes. I want my kids to see me grow old, and I want to be there for their wedding, graduation, and the struggles in their life, and help them move forward and be there for the successes and their happiness and that sort of stuff. So that's what defining dad bod means to me. Is making a definition and making sure my kids understand I'm doing it for them. And I've told them, I tell them every time they say, you look good. My son said the other day, that shirt fits you better. It's not as tight anymore. It's like that. I really appreciate you saying that, because I want you to know this is my why. You guys are. You guys are my why.
Man, just got chill bumps. So, Jon, I always like to ask this at the end, especially because many people find there are obstacles in their own personal journey for health and fitness. What has been the biggest obstacle for you in this, and how have you overcome that?
I think the biggest obstacle for me, honestly, was the nutrition side of it. Growing up, I talked about my football coach throwing me into the gym and saying, lift some stuff and put it down. But it wasn't, don't eat that McDonald's cheeseburger on Saturday. That wasn't it. So before we started, we had another call to connect. Like, I don't know where I'm going to get fiber from. Where do I find that? And, what kind of carbohydrates are okay. And, so the biggest struggle for me was nutrition, and then the commitment of working a shift work schedule where I work 12-hour shifts. I work 2 days, 12 hours. I get 24 hours off after that last shift, and then I work 2 night shifts. And how do I sleep all day? And, I'm awake for the next 6 to 7 hours. How do I stuff 2,080 calories into 7 hours? Like, it's seemingly impossible, but I've changed not only my life physically and mentally, but my schedule has changed completely. And that's how I've overcome that stress of nutrition. And I research, I read, I know I can get, 27 grams of protein out of 3 eggs, half a cup of egg whites, and a little bit of cottage cheese. Like, it takes time. It takes practice. It's just like anything. It's a commitment. And I'm super happy with where we've come from, and I'm excited about where we're going.
I love that. You've made that struggle look easy. I know it took about 4 to 8 weeks to really find a rhythm in there, but now that you have a rhythm, it's almost like old hat to you. It's not even an obstacle anymore. You're like, oh, this is how I manage the schedule, and this is how I get the fiber, and these are my great go-tos when I don't have a lot of time. And like, you just managed that so masterfully, man. Nice job.
Mm-hmm. Thanks. Yeah.
So I want to close this down. I think one thing that's really important to me is if you're listening to this, first of all, Jon has been from point A, and his point B is progressing and changing, but he's made a great amount of stride through there. So if you have an opportunity to tell him, good job, keep up the good work, you're an inspiration and awesome, please do that for him. I tell him regularly, dude, you freaking rock my socks. And I send weird gifts, and there's a lot of Top Gun. We like the Top Gun ones. So there's a lot of that involved with the workout program. But if you're listening to this and, there's a lot of great programs out there, and I don't think I'm the best one by any means. However, if you need some help creating the foundation that's going to stick with you, and you're interested in transforming your life for the long haul, I would love for you, if you have questions, reach out to Jon. I know Jon would be happy to talk to you about his experience. And then I know that I'm really happy to help as well. And on the Defining Dad Bod site, we do 1-week trials. I will set the link in the description below, just so that if you're like, 16 weeks, that's a long time to decide I'm going to change things. Let you try things for a week. But the way Jon did it is he jumped in head first. It was like skinny dipping into a cold lake. You're like, all right, let's go, man. So anyway, that being said, thank you for joining us and jumping in. Jon, thank you so much for sharing your story, man. And I think even more so, dad to dad, thank you for being the guy who is leaving a legacy of health and fitness for his kids, because there needs to be more people like that in the world. And I hope that, between you and I and all of the other guys who have come on here and shared their stories and stuff, we can continue that ripple effect of change. You're part of that. And I really appreciate you sharing your story, man.
Thanks, Alex. I appreciate talking to you. Honestly, I've been looking forward to having a story to tell for whatever it's been, just over 16 weeks. And I've watched a lot of the other ones and when you said it was time, I was super excited. So thanks for helping me share my story.
You're welcome, man. And not just because you're in my top 10 Hall of Fame for clients, we will hear from you again, because I know this journey's not done, and I can't wait to bring you on, I don't know, January, February, see where we're at and talk about, the cars that you're lifting now and the obstacle course. Actually, I would really love to hear how you perform in your physical fitness test compared to last year or the last 2 years. So anyway, I'm excited to talk about that too. So don't think this is the last time you get to see your non-double chin face here, brother.
Thanks, man.
You got it. Hey, you have a fantastic rest of your day, and thanks for jumping on.
All right, man. Thanks a lot.
All right.